Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day, and above all else, that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the topic of this episode, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Jim Brecker. How's it going, Jim?
Doing all right, Armando. Happy to spend some time with you yakking about, music, I suppose. That's what we're going to talk about.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, no, I'm in such a good mood today. Oilers won last night. They beat St. Louis 4-2, so I'm wearing my Oilers jersey. There you go. You probably can't see it in the camera, but
The colors are
there,
clear.
there you go. There we go. There we go. All right, that's good enough. And the phone's ringing. Bob will get that. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of this episode is buried treasures. This is an idea that Jim came up with. And fully support this idea. We thought that it'd be nice to talk about um, a number of albums that maybe we feel didn't get enough attention during their initial run or their release. And Jim is going to take the lead on this, and I'm going to sit back, shut my big mouth, and enjoy my cup of coffee. Um, for just a few minutes here and there. I will be interjecting, of course, you know me.
Please
But
do.
oh, of course, my dear boy. But without further ado, I will pass the virtual mic over to Jim for his list of buried treasures. Take it away, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you. So there was really no rhyme or reason to this list other than what you had kind of indicated, Armando, that this was just to be sort of uh, a place to kind of I guess, promote and give some airtime to some records that people may have never heard of or saw in passing and dismissed it for whatever reasons, A, B, or C. Some of these require a little digging, but I do believe that most of them, if they're not available on all your basic streaming services, like Apple Music or Tidal or Spotify, they're probably available on YouTube in one form or another. I know this first one is available as, on YouTube. Someone basically has just they're showing the vinyl spinning, and that's what you hear. You hear the audio from the vinyl. So
Hmm.
so let's just kind of start with that one. I'm gonna take these chronologically.
Sure.
Um, the first one is from 1984. The band is called Group 87, and the album title is called A Career in Data Processing. Now, Group 87 were formed. It's a trio of highly successful session musicians and solo artists in the early 80s. They only did two albums. Um, and the lineup changed between the two. The first album was in 1980, and the second one that we're going to discuss here, 1984. Uh, the the band lineup here is Mark Isham, who up to that time had kind of cut his teeth with Taj Mahal, Van Morrison, Boz Scaggs, but ended up with a very um, successful career as a film composer.
I was going to
And
say that name sounds familiar to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had done some solo albums on Windham Hill, and he handles trumpets, electronics, and keyboards. Um, he's a very accomplished composer and arranger. Still doing stuff today. Um, Peter Monyu was a member of the band. He had spent time with Jean-Luc Ponty, Billy Cobham, Airto, and he handles guitars, guitar synths, violin, mandolin, percussion.
Oh, okay.
Um, the trio is rounded out by a gentleman named Peter Van Hook, who is an English drummer and had been in Mike and the Mechanics for their first decade, produced stuff with Van Morrison's band and a few of Tanita Tikaram's albums. Um, so these guys have, some chops and some pedigree behind them. Um, these albums, especially this one, can be found on Prague archives. So even though these guys only did two things, they have some impact still. many new age jazz and progressive artists, if they've heard this album, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is really good stuff."
Hmm.
And what this is, well, first of all, I got to address the elephant in the room. It is 1984, and it is very, very electronic.
Okay.
So this really sounds,
Of
it
its time.
sounds, it is of its time and it sounds of its time, but it's not dated. And I think that has a lot to do with what they're doing musically
Okay.
and what they're doing with the instruments.
That's an
So yeah, you
interesting
hear
distinction.
that. What?
Sorry, I was
Sorry.
just going to say that's an interesting distinction to make. That it
Yeah.
is of its time, but it doesn't sound dated.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this still sounds fresh today. Even though you hear those drums, and it's like, yeah, that totally sounds like 19, mid 80s drums on there.
Yeah.
Um, so the music itself is highly composed. There's little to no improvisation unless they're doing, solos, but
Hmm.
it is really inventive. And it's like when I listen to this, I hear, Talking Heads, Level 42, Gary Newman,
Ooh.
the Police. I mean, it's some really interesting stuff in here.
Okay.
For example, there's a track here called "The Apple Bites Back," which has, first of all, it's led by Isham's really clear and crisp trumpet tone. Not a Miles ripoff, but he has that kind of way of just cutting through. That's really really good. There's the guitar lines here sound like something Andy Summers would have done in The Police. The synth lines are very much like Talk Talk's first album. They're reminiscent of that to me.
Okay.
And then the drum patterns, it's like it sets the template for like Genesis, what they did with the Brazilian like 2 years later.
Okay. Now you piqued
So
my curiosity. Okay.
yeah, I mean, this is a really, really fun album. Like I said, if you're a strict jazzer, you're probably gonna turn up your nose at it. But if you like your jazz, a little bit progressive, I think Group 87 is a fun thing to hunt down and discover. And like I said, it's available on all the streaming services. Um, so yeah, this is, like I said, very much of its time, but it's got some really, really tight musical qualities that bear some fruit when you re-listen to it, even today, 40 years on after it was made.
I'm gonna check that out for sure. Definitely.
All right,
Oh, cool.
cool. Um, so now the other thing about my list of five is that it is all over the place. There's very, very little through
I
line
saw
for
that.
all these different albums. Yeah. And that is evidenced by my next selection, which comes from 1991. The band name is Infectious Grooves, and the album is called The Plague That Makes Your Booty Move.
Ooh, it's an ass shaker. I like that. Okay.
It is an ass shaker. It's a funk metal album.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So this evolved as a side project from the band Suicidal Tendencies. Um,
Oh,
the,
Jesus.
the lead singer, Mike Muir, is the guy who's in charge. And this is the other person who is very noteworthy in these sessions is Robert Trujillo on bass.
For Metallica.
This was pre-Metallica, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
he is. And someone online has called this an unabashed good time party record. So sonically, think about it like Metallica meets Fishbone. And
Ooh.
if you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, this should be pretty much in your wheelhouse musically.
Okay.
Um, it's they're just trying to have fun, and it really shows. I mean, the album titles here: "Stop Funkin' with My Head," "Infecto Groovalistic," "You Lie," and "Your Breath Stank." I mean, they're just really out to
Very cool.
do, you know.
Okay, I got it.
Maybe James
I
Brown
got
meets
it.
Fear is another combination that you can put in here, but this is just it's been a record that I've loved for a long time. I think they finally just put it out on streaming services. It's been very hard to get a hold of this, but yeah, the plague that makes your booty move. If you like the funk metal scene, I think this is something that will surprise and delight you if you
Yeah.
haven't heard it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I was going
Yes,
to say something, no, but no, I was just going to say an album like that with titles like that. The only song title from that album that's missing is "You Ugly and You Know It," kind of a thing. It's like
pretty
just
much.
in your face. But
That's the attitude. Oh, I should
yeah,
also say that they've got Ozzy Osbourne doing vocals on one of the tracks. So
okay. They've thrown the kitchen sink in there. Okay, that's good. That's good. I get
they
that.
have. They have.
I get that.
So
Well,
um
interesting.
so something to seek out from 1991. Uh so we're going to jump into the 2000s now.
Okay.
And again, 180 degrees from what we were talking about before.
Anything.
And
Go on.
this is an album which may, I'll say, stoke your ire,
Uh-oh.
Armando,
Go on.
because this is an album from a gal who tried to be molded into the teen pop um, mold, if you will, of like Jessica Simpson, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears.
Go on. Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
however, this is a young lady who um, who broke the mold with this record.
It wouldn't happen
This
to
is
be
It would happen
Mandy
to be
Moore.
Mandy Moore,
Yeah.
and the album is called Coverage. Now, what this album is, she did two of these, teeny bopper mold stuffing records, but she's like, I want to do stuff that I really connect with. And for her, that's going back to the songs that she loved growing up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this set list, if you will, track list, kind of tells you everything that you need to know about where she's coming from.
Okay.
Senses Working Overtime by XTC, The Whole of the Moon by the Waterboys,
Ooh,
Can We Still Be Friends by Todd, I Feel the Earth Move, Carole King, Mona
ooh,
Lisa's and Mad Hatters, Elton, Moonshadow, Cat Stevens, One Way or Another, Breaking Us in Two, Help Me. I mean,
ooh. Sweet Jesus.
I know the set list here is
Are you
unbelievable.
are you kidding me?
I kid you not. I
That's an
absolutely kid
eclectic
you not.
list.
Yeah, I mean, if there's if there's something about her voice or maybe the production techniques of this album that kind of makes you wince a little bit, just listen to the songs, listen to the melodies, listen to what's going on. It's just the lyrics. It's an unbelievable track list. Um,
Yeah.
from the big encyclopedia in the sky, I found this quote from All Music, which says, with this record, she leaves dance pop behind and heads toward mature pop, positioning herself as a pop rock singer by covering these classic singer-songwriters. While the album isn't always successful, it is always admirable and likable, and certainly puts her, on the right path for an interesting and successful career. So,
Yeah. 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 No, interesting. And just to interject something, the only other artist I remember doing that with their career was Alanis Morissette,
mhm,
where her first two albums that were released in Canada through MCA were of the dance pop, teeny bop vein.
mhm.
And with her third release, Jagged Little Pill, she just said, no, 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 I'm done. I want to do my own material. I want to do more adult contemporary stuff that I'm interested in. And she just
Mhm.
did a complete turnaround and just ran with it and was successful with it. So, yeah.
You can say so.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I
absolutely.
mean, yeah. So I get it. I understand. No, that's piqued my curiosity again. I'm going to go check this out.
Well,
So,
good, good.
yeah.
That's the idea is that your curiosity would be piqued and maybe we can, talk about this stuff some
No, that's
more.
good. That's good.
One other thing I'll mention about Mandy is that her career definitely did kind of move towards this more, you know, power pop, like, intelligent songwriting
Yeah.
type of career. A great example of this later in her career is this song called I Could Break Your Heart Any Day of the Week, which sounds like, okay, it's just, normal teen pablum of some, woman that's full of herself.
Well,
But
she's
the
being a
way,
bitch, right?
yes, but this is the whole approach to this song. It's just like power pop genius. I mean, she involves herself with guys like John Bryan, the guys from the band the Candy Butchers, which if you don't know them, they were the sound behind the band The Wonders from That Thing You Do, the
Oh,
Tom
okay.
Hanks
Okay.
movie.
Okay.
So she's very much trying to steep herself in this 70s 80s power pop um, you know
Movement.
not mythos, but again,
Movement.
the set list, the track list that I mentioned, if you sort of get the quality of what's going on with those song titles and those songwriters, I mean, that gives you an idea of what she's aspiring to do.
Hmm. I get it. No, I understand completely. I mean, when you mentioned census working overtime, I'm like, oh, okay, that would be interesting to hear her take on it,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, I mean,
help
and that's
me.
it's a great start to the album. I mean, also Joan Armatrading covers are on here, John Hyatt. Um, it's it's a full dozen tracks of just fantastic 70s, 80s
Joan
songwriting.
Armatrading, you've got me interested in that. Which song is that?
Drop the Pilot.
Drop the Pilot. Okay. Okay. Because when I think of Joan Armatrading, I'm thinking me, myself, I. And
Hmm.
this is way back in the day, like in the
Way back, yeah.
early 80s. But okay, no, that's good. That's good. Okay.
Okay,
More food for thought. All right.
more food for thought. Yes, more things to listen to online.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yes.
so we've covered like new wave instrumental music, funk metal, power pop, and now we're going a little proggy.
Ooh.
So we are jumping to 2006. This is the double album from Jacko M. Jaksic, if I pronounced the last name correctly. The album is called The Bruised Romantic Glee Club. Uh, Jocko had been, yes, you look like you're going to say something.
His name is familiar to me. Hasn't he done remixes for Jethro
Yes,
Tull?
he's done
Yes.
remixes for Tull. He was a member of Level 42 for a while.
Okay.
When
Okay.
when Robert Fripp reformed Crimson in 2013 and did the 10 years of touring after that, just about, he was the lead singer and co-guitarist.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. The name was familiar. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, this album is a sleeper. Um, and not because it makes you, pass out, but it
Yeah, yeah,
didn't get the attention it deserved, hence Buried Treasure. Um,
exactly.
this is a double album in which the first disc consists of original songs by Jocko, and the second is cover versions of prog and art rock tracks that influenced him as he was growing up. So Soft Machine, Henry Cow. There's a version of the King Crimson track Pictures of a City on there, but because he includes tabla, It's called Pictures of an Indian City. So
Oh,
if
okay.
you like that deep track from In the Wake of Poseidon, you're gonna really like this.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
the guests on this album are incredible. Fripp, Gavin Harrison, Ian McDonald, Mark King,
Oh,
John Giblin, Ian Wallace. I mean,
oh, sweet Jesus. Okay. All right.
this is a fantastic album. The first disc um, is a great balance of songs and instrumentals. And the thing that really connects me to this record is that there's kind of a rawness of emotion. And, he's definitely wearing his heart on his sleeve in the things that he's talking about in terms of his family and relationships and whatnot. And if you pair that with really these virtuosic performances and this just these highly melodic and catchy songs, it's really a combination that can't be beat. It's just so it trips the trigger for me of emotional connection and musical interest that just does the job fantastically. All about jazz, talked about it, and I'll just read from what they have here because John Kellman did a much better job of describing it than I ever
Okay.
could.
I understood.
uh, Largely autobiographical songs whose complexity and diverse instrumentation place them firmly in the prog camp, but with a refreshing pop sensibility and an utter lack of pretension. It's
Okay.
just fantastic. And yeah, Jacko has this ear for melody and soundcraft and just instrumentation that's just really amazing. You're right that he had been involved with the Tull remixes,
Hmm.
and I think he might have been involved in some of the ELP remixes as well. So, you know,
Maybe you're right.
he
Yeah.
he's not Steven Wilson, but he's definitely in that orbit.
Okay.
And this album is just another place online described this as it's a kind of a prog record that you could listen to with your spouse or girlfriend.
Hmm.
So you're not going to chase them away because it's completely, you know, impenetrable. Yes, it's got, songs that are in 7/8 with, sections of four in it and, maybe some waltz time thrown in there. But again, it's so well done, so melodically and harmonically pleasing that, it's not off-putting in any way,
It's
sense, or form.
accessible.
So
It's accessible.
very accessible. Once again, you've distilled my 10-word ramblings down to one word, and I appreciate that.
It's fine. I'm here to please. I'm here to please. There you go. There you go. No, no, no. I'm enjoying this. You're opening my eyes to a lot of stuff that I did not even know was out there. So I'm going to be doing some research after this show, actually. So it's good. It's good.
Good,
Got
good.
a bank account. Go on. Go
So let
on.
me throw one last album on your research pile.
Okay.
So this is a 2007 release, and switching genres again, and we're going pure jazz on this one. This is the Keith Jarrett Trio, My Foolish Heart.
Ooh, I know Keith Jarrett. Okay. That's some of his
Okay,
stuff.
so this was recorded in the Montreux Jazz Festival in 2001, and um, Keith's Standards Trio, which is Gary Peacock on bass and Jack DeJohnette on drums,
Oh,
they
sweet Jesus.
are they are like a single organism when they play. There is just this telepathy that they have with one another and this complementary style of playing that it just seems like it's one brain up there just planning everything. Um, Now, his standards trio, I mean, this is standard stuff. Miles, Bill Evans, Sonny Rollins, uh, Kern, and Hammerstein as composers. I mean, it's very difficult to talk about like the best album from this trio, and they released many of them, and many
Mm-hmm.
of them were live because that is where they excel.
Mm-hmm.
It's splitting hairs to kind of determine the best, because the standard of playing is just so off the chart high.
Well, I'm just gonna say this. Maybe every album of theirs is the best for different reasons. I mean, every album is
Mhm.
good for different reasons. So that's probably what makes it difficult to select a best album from this trio.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking jazz standards, Come Rain, Come Shine, for Blackbird, My Foolish Heart. I mean, it's typical jazz standard book stuff.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but, disc one ends with them going into the Fats Waller tune, Ain't Misbehavin'. Keith has,
Oh,
I have never seen an album from the trio where they went like full stride piano, and Keith frickin' nails it.
okay.
I mean, I can imagine that they like fool around with this stuff for fun, but to just do that, in that trio setting, was just unheard of, literally unheard of at that time.
Mhm.
Because everything was very locked into, like, the Great American Songbook. And
Yeah.
and I don't begrudge them doing that. But again, this just took their game and just upped it immediately.
Yeah. Okay.
And they basically swing the hell out of this. Um,
I get it.
Again, all music kind of described it says this document is a mind blower from start to finish, and there are moments when all you can do in response is just look at the box slack jawed and wonder if what you just heard really actually happened.
Mhm.
Because Ain't Misbehaving ends up disc one. You put on disc two, what do they start off with? Honeysuckle Rose, and again they're swinging even harder. It's just like they unlocked some primal joy jazz freedom, and they just went into the stratosphere with this album. And it's, people who know Jarrett in a passing way know about the Colne concert and his very deep improvisations and his incredible abilities to do stuff that, molds jazz, classical, gospel, folk, all that stuff just off the top of his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of that stuff comes up in this album in these trio settings.
Okay.
Oh,
Just to interject something. I with
yeah.
Keith Jarrett, I'm a novice. I know he is the album Beginnings. I think it's Beginnings.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
know I've listened to that one album, but other than that, I'm a musical virgin when it comes to Keith Jarrett and getting into his stuff. So this is going to be great for me to jump into, like, with both
Oh,
feet.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
we've talked before about the Bill Evans trio kind of being the use this phrase a lot, like the Mount Olympus of jazz trios.
Bill Evans episode coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. Go on. Um,
Jar uh, Jarrett, Peacock, and DeJohnette, are sort of knocking at the door
yeah.
to take that place. And this album, um, I should have done my research. They've got at least a dozen albums as, the Keith Jarrett Trio.
Yeah.
Some of them are very standards based, and some of them are just completely out, like free jazz
Y- y-
type.
Yeah, yeah. You see, again, not to cut you off, but just to interject something. You mentioned something before about the Great American Songbook in terms of doing jazz standards. I can just imagine that if you're in a music genre that the masses expect you to play by the musical rules, as it were, like just go by the songbook.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I can just imagine that to break the glass ceiling, as it were, and just go wherever you want to go musically
Hmm.
with these compositions. Um, I would imagine it's a breath of fresh air for them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like it's a you're adding another scope, another breath, another take on an already known track, and you're just giving it your own spin. I think that would be just musically liberating for them to do that. So
sure.
I don't understand. Not that I don't understand. Sorry, it's the wrong word to use, but I can understand why they would want to do that,
Hmm.
just to break expectations and break boundaries and just go nuts musically. Just do whatever the hell you want to do, kind of a thing. So I get that 100%.
Exactly. Yeah. And
So
I think to have been in the audience to hear them all of a sudden go there would
yeah,
have been
yeah, yeah,
because even though they tackled the Great American Songbook, it's not like Keith Jarrett would go out every night and play the same set. He is he is always driven by the muse, and he at this time. So um, his talents are so prolific that he could go out and play whatever the heck that he wanted to, and he can make it work. And every night was, the set list was kind of just, developed by the muse. What did he feel like playing? And, because he's so talented, because Gary Peacock as a bass player is so talented, and Jack DeJohnette as a drummer is just, his own thing as well.
yeah. Yeah.
They could basically have a night of just, yeah, there's no set list. Let's just call audibles all night and then just crank through it. They were just that good. And this My Foolish Heart album is for me, it's kind of the place to start to really get how amazing this and groundbreaking this trio was.
Yeah, no, I completely get where you're coming from about, breaking the coming out, let's say breaking out of the musical box and just doing something that's completely the opposite of what you're doing from the night before,
Yep,
and just enjoying it.
yep.
For me, that's what music is all about, endless possibilities, you know.
And they they did that every night. Again, not every Jarrett trio album is for everyone. The one where they just go completely out is not something that I listen to very often, but this is just completely a complete winner from start
Actually,
to finish.
I'm picking this one up, this one that you mentioned. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna go on Discogs and check it out, and
All right. So there's my five. I'm
there
not
you
sure where
go.
my hand is, but
There you
group
go. It's right in front of your face, right there. There you go.
five,
There you go. You're
Group
five.
87,
There you go.
Infectious Grooves, Mandy Moore, Jocko M. Jaksic, and Keith Jarrett Trio. Those are my buried treasures that I felt compelled to share with everyone because they're all just so dang good.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, I want to thank you very much for joining us on this musically schizophrenic episode of Buried Treasure. Um, if there's an album on this list that you've heard of, please put down in the comments your view of this album, your opinion, what you like, what you don't like, and give us maybe a list of albums that you think that maybe we should check out from what you know of. I mean, we've never claimed to know everything there is to know about music on this channel. I certainly don't know everything. I'm not an expert. I love music. I know Jim loves music, as does Bill, as does Ken. We just wanted to bring you this just to give you a little more of a different musical palette to choose from. So, again, I want to thank Jim for joining me on this again. Music, musically schizophrenic episode of Buried Treasure. And again, we will be back very soon with more episodes. We have more ideas percolating, I should say. We are doing an episode on Bill Evans coming up. and more in the near future. So please, please look after yourselves and one another, and click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell again to keep yourselves on top of any new content I've got coming up. And we will see you very soon. Okay? Please look after yourselves and one another. And for Jim, I'm Armando signing off, and we'll see you soon with more shows. Bye for now.